coming through to phone functions, how to connect your phone. So that's going to be in the second row here on your devices. Make sure Bluetooth is active. And then once it is, we're going to just hit connect new devices, connect new phone, and then we're going to select the phone right here. Send the pairing code over to your phone. Works a lot better to do it from the PCM here than it is to try and find the PCM on your phone. We're going to just allow access. Everything is going to be set up here. And then of course, let's say you want to activate your Apple CarPlay or anything like that. Often you just have to wait up to 30 seconds after you've paired up the Bluetooth, and this is going to pop up here. We're just going to click yes. We need to accept the terms and permissions for it to use. And then from there, you're going to have to look at your phone. You're going to have to say the same thing. Yes, use CarPlay. And the very first time you use it is completely normal. Sometimes it'll take up to 2 minutes for the CarPlay to load in and work correctly. No concern there if it seems to be taking a while for it to load in. Our Apple CarPlay should load in nicely right here. Why Apple CarPlay is not working right now is because, and it's actually showing the same on my phone, just where we are here along the ridge where we have our dealership, we don't have any service in the vehicle. So for the initial connection here, we're not going to be able to get it to hook up unless we have service. So often if something like this happens, especially if it's during the initial hookup of your vehicle, just make sure you move the vehicle somewhere where you do have at least a couple bars of service, because it's going to make this process a whole lot easier and quicker. But for now, we'll just stick with Bluetooth connection. As you can see here, we're connected to Bluetooth via the phone and for music. On the bottom right-hand side of your PCM, you're going to have the 3 little dots. Clicking into these is going to always bring you to your related settings. So right now we're going to be in the devices menu settings, and quite important for the initial setup of the car. Once you've signed into your My Porsche account and brought up all that information inside the vehicle, you're going to want to go into your Wi-Fi settings here and just make sure Wi-Fi is ticked as on. That's allowing your SIM card to do its job, so you can pull from the internet and take advantage of all your online services. And then if you are wanting to change any of the passwords for your vehicle or anything like that, let's say you want to connect your phone to the wireless hotspot inside the car, you're also going to be able to do that. But yeah, in Wi-Fi settings right here, this is what I was looking for. If you go to configure the vehicle or hotspot, this is where you can either find the name of your embedded SIM card network right here that you're operating off of, and the password. If you click on the password here, of course, you also have the ability to change both of these, because this will be preset in the vehicle when you first hop in it. All right, now that we're connected to phone, let's just pop over to the phone module here just so you can see. So essentially, you're just going to have all your favorites, kind of your most recently dialed people here, call history if you want to go through that, and then your contacts will be in here as well. That's all I really have to mention in terms of the phone functions. Easiest way to make a phone call, once again, is going to be that voice control button. All right, moving on from phone, let's go to the bottom layer here of widgets and start going through these. So coming into our settings, a lot of this I'm not going to dive into too deeply. However, there's going to be some main settings that if we scroll down to vehicle, that's always good to go through right away when you first pick up your vehicle or you're setting it. So if we go into our vehicle settings, let's start with our vehicle locking systems down here. So from the top, door release. For example, let's say you want to hit unlock on your key and have all the doors pop open versus just the driver's door having to double click the unlock button to get all the other doors open. That's what that will be controlling. Fold in exterior mirrors when locking. So let's say you want to hit lock on your car and your mirrors just fold in. That's what that setting is going to be. If you like the doors to lock when you start driving, generally that's recommended just as a safety setting. If you like the car to just chime at you when you lock it, that way you actually know that the vehicle is fully locked, you'll have that. Comfort access, that's just going to be when you walk up to the vehicle and grab the door handles. you're going to be able to pop open the doors or the trunk or anything like that without having to pull out the key and hitting the unlock button. And then below that, you're going to have expanded comfort access. What that is that the car is able to sense the proximity of the key. So right when you walk up to it, the car knows to pop out those door handles for you, just so it's a little bit easier and quicker to hop in there. Trunk lid comfort opening. That's going to be for the rear trunk. Essentially, that's the kick to enter feature on this car. Then coming down, we're going to have two options that are related. So you're going to have your interior monitoring, and what that does, if the car is locked and turned off and it checks movement on the inside of it, it's going to trigger your alarms. So for whatever reason, you either have dogs, anything in the vehicle that's going to be moving around, and you're not in it and the car's turned off, definitely recommend that you do turn off this feature. If not, your alarms will be getting triggered. The other time that this can be quite handy is if you're ever on a ferry. So sometimes just the movements, vibrations of the ferry, especially because the car's parked and turned off, will set the alarms off. So any ferry rides, I mean, it doesn't happen too often, just a rare occurrence. It can often be worthwhile just to disable this feature. And the bottom one, same feature. It just asks you every time you turn off the car if you want to disable that feature or not. Clicking out of here, we're going to continue down to light and visibility. There's only one here I want to talk about, and that's in our reversing menu. If you want to set the passenger side mirror to point downwards when you go into reverse, just so you can see where a curb is, lines, anything like that, that's where you can select that function to turn on. Often the very first time you activate it, you're actually going to have to go ahead and set where you want that mirror to point down. You may notice that if you turn it on and go into reverse, your mirror is actually going to tilt upwards. That's normal. It's just because it hasn't been set yet. Essentially put the car into reverse and keep it in reverse while you just go and adjust that side mirror, point it to where you want it to go, and after that you'll have it set. All right, continuing these vehicle settings, the next one I wanted to talk about is going to be the shortcut buttons. So you're going to have two of them in this vehicle. The first one's going to be on your steering wheel. It's going to look like a little diamond. So let's click into here just so you guys can see. You're going to be given this menu here, and essentially these are programmable buttons. So we can take any of these functions. You have to choose one of them. You can't choose multiple, and you can decide what that button's going to do. So generally, I do have a couple of recommendations. My first, especially if you are in an area where you either see lots of rain, lots of snow, it's cold, stuff sticking to your parking sensors around the vehicle, is going to be park display mute, or sorry, park assist mute. And essentially what you can use that for, whenever, let's say, snow packs onto your parking sensors, your car's going to assume it's colliding with something, and it's going to start beeping at you like crazy. It used to be in all of our vehicles that you had a button up top here, you could click to stop that beeping, but you no longer have that. So you'd be able to now stop this beeping by clicking the diamond button on the steering wheel. The other use that where you see it quite commonly is, let's say you're going through a drive-through, because of course you're going to be close to the window, the wall's there, the car will think you're close and we will be beeping at you. And now I could just click our diamond button and turn off that beeping. The next one's going to be an instrument cluster button. Once again, this is going to be another diamond, and you may be able to see it here. It's just on the instrument cluster menu next to your lift button, just behind the steering wheel there. And a lot of the same options will be available here. Generally, my second recommendation is either going to be kind of bringing up your home link for quicker access to your garage door openers. That or electric sport sound is quite common as well. Then you just have a quick way to turn on and off that electric sport sound, depending kind of where you're driving and what your personal preference is for the sound. Then of course in these settings, you are able to dive deeper into a lot of them. Let's say a lot of these assistance systems where you have your kind of automatic braking system, that's what this warn and brake assist is, or your lane departure warning. If you have lane keep assist where it pulls you back into your lane, all of these you can go in and essentially adjust how soon they're going to react and kind of what that distance is going to be. Generally, I find that the standard settings are quite good already, but once again, everyone has their own personal preferences, so a lot of that you can customize and kind of tailor to your own driving style. And then you'll have more here. system, for example, this is where you'll find you can change different units. Let's say you're driving from Canada to the States and you want to switch to miles per hour. That's where you're going to be able to do that. And then date, time settings. For date and time, everything's going to be set to GPS coordinates and on automatic anyhow, but you can configure that manually still if you want. Like I said, a lot of this stuff, what it just requires is taking that kind of 15-20 minute sit on your driveway and just plugging away through them. Moving on from settings, we're going to have charging. So this is going to be one of the more important functions in this vehicle. So let's click into it here. So first thing we're going to start with is going to be the timer on the vehicle. So since this is our demo, we actually already have one set up, but right now I've taken it off and we're going to go into it just so it can show you what to do as an example. So we're going to hit this little pencil button on the right to edit our timer, and a couple of things you wanna watch for. So typically your target charge, you're going to want that to be 85%. Essentially that's going to prolong the health of your battery over the long period. If you're charging above 85%, I mean, a few times in a row, that's going to be fine. You just don't want to be consistently doing it for years and years, because then it will actually have to start having an effect on the health of your battery. But yeah, make sure the target range is at 85%. And then generally the easiest way to do it is by just clicking into date and departure time here. For example, let's say you leave the house at 8 o'clock a.m. each morning. We're going to come into here. We're going to set this to display our departure time. So 8 o'clock a.m. And then we're going to come down here, and right now we have it set to repeat every single day. You can see where it says daily down here, but let's say you're only heading out of the house 4 days a week and you didn't need it set those other days. You could configure that how you wanted. But yeah, for now, we're going to leave it set like this. We're going to click back here, and at the same time, we're going to have some functionality here where we can pre-cool or heat the vehicle to desired temperature. And this is something that's useful, especially if it's plugged in anyways, your vehicle. Preheating or cooling your vehicle, it's not going to be pulling from the vehicle's battery. It's going to be pulling from the charger because it's plugged in. So it's not going to have any effect on your range. So we're going to turn that on because we're just going to be plugging in every single night and making sure our vehicle's recharged back up to 85%. And let's hit back here. And essentially we're going to tick our charger as on. And now what this means is that every single morning at 8 o'clock a.m., our vehicle is going to have an 85% charge. And when we head out to it, it's going to be warmed up to our 20 degrees Celsius. Moving over to profiles here, you're going to have your general charging profile, and below it, if you add new profiles, you can set local charging profiles. For example, there, if you're using a local one, you could kind of punch in your address there and your vehicle will know where to apply itself. But for now, we're just going to use our general charging profile. Generally, I find that is more than enough. And I mean, unless let's say you're going from home to a cabin, you don't really need to have more than the one profile. So let's hit the same pencil button here so we can go take a look at this. So opposite to what you had in your timer, instead of maximum state of charge, we're going to have a minimum charge. And what this means is when you first plug your car in, we have it set to 55% because this is our demo, but as soon as you plug it in, it's going to ignore your times charger and it's going to charge as quickly to 55% as possible. And then overnight, the charge timer is going to kick in and it's going to charge it up to our 85%. Depending where you live and kind of what your personal preferences are, a lot of people opt to have it lower. That way you can either take advantage of lower charging or lower charging rates at night where it's cheaper to charge, or you just have less draw on your house for on your electrical panel there if you're charging at night because your dryer, dishwasher, nothing like that's going to be running. Then the car can just do its own thing. So yeah, depending what your preference is, often people have this kind of set for 25% or 30%, and almost the entire charge is going to be done overnight to hit that 85% in the morning. Personally, I recommend, especially here in Alberta where it's not any cheaper to charge at night, that you move this to a minimum state of charge of 50%. That way, let's say there's an emergency, you have to run out of the house with the vehicle, you're making kind of sure that you have that 50% charge on the car. Your car hasn't just been sitting in the garage waiting for night to charge itself. Coming down here, optimized charge. That's going to just kind of go for the quickest charge possible. And then you can, and I'm going to rephrase that. I mean, quickest charge possible, but what I mean by that is going to be charging as quickly to your minimum charge here as possible. And then below this here, you could set preferred times or set preferred charging times. And for this, once again, here in Alberta, unless you're just wanting to charge at nights just so you have less load on your house there, it doesn't cost us any more to charge during the day than it does at night. So generally for us, we're not going to worry about this. We can just keep the optimized charge on. But let's say you lived in California, somewhere where it's significantly less expensive to charge at night, then maybe you would want this on, and then you could select when you prefer the vehicle to charge right here. So you'd be able to set a time frame. But for now, like I said, we're going to just go put it back to optimized charge because that's what's important for us here. And then of course, you're going to want this to be checked as active. Coming over to Precool and heat functions. As you saw on the timer up here, we were able to turn on the preheater, and this is where you can customize that if you want to get into it. So for example, Precool and heat, you can turn this on or off. I'm going to show you an alternative and quicker way to actually access this a little bit later. This is where you can set the interior temperature, and then also you're going to be able to set different zones. So right now with our preheater, it was actually only preheating the driver's front and passenger seat there. Of course, that's going to kind of get pushed to the back anyhow, but let's say you're wanting to preheat the back as well, you can absolutely go and do that. And then the very bottom one, Precool / heat with remote unlocking. Let's say you unlock the vehicle via the app, the car knows to automatically start warming up for you right away. And then coming to our overview here, this is essentially kind of a layout of our times, chargers, and profiles. At the very bottom here, you're going to have direct charging. And what that's for is essentially your profile and timer we set is going, if you check this, is going to just not come into effect when you're charging. So let's say you're wanting to charge your car immediately up to 100% without having to wait for the timer or anything like that. You can just select your direct charging and it will charge from whatever percentage you've left the vehicle at, all the way to 100 without, like I said, being affected by your general charging profile or your time charger.